Hello, friends. Are you familiar with the feeling of envy? No, there is no need to deny it now, to say that you have never envied anyone and do not envy anyone, that you are, they say, a holy man. It is natural for any living person to compare, and therefore, inevitably, a feeling of slight envy visits everyone one way or another. This is suffering about the success of another person. This suffering can be light, barely noticeable, but for some people it can also be vivid, forcing them to take some actions, sometimes even harmful ones, aimed at harming the object of envy. It is not for nothing that philosophers have always tried to somehow divide envy into two types, white and black envy, emphasizing, they say, that there are positive fruits of envy, for example, that we strive to achieve success, improve our skills, looking up to others. The feeling of envy, white envy, like a medicine, in the good sense of the word, makes us reach more and more new heights, in a career, in earning money, in any business. If it were not for envy, the process of self-improvement would be impossible, because we are naturally inclined to compare ourselves with other people, to imitate them. This is an inevitable biological program. And those who claim without evidence that they have never envied anyone in life are probably just a little disingenuous. Of course, they envied, they experienced this universal feeling. Yes, perhaps it was not black envy, it did not entail the desire to harm, to do deliberate evil, but a slight feeling of barely perceptible suffering about the success of other people was and is experienced by absolutely all people in one way or another. A neighbor bought a new expensive car or house. Oh, great job of course, but why not me? I would like one like that too. After all, I work just as hard. A colleague was promoted, and none of the bosses noticed your suffering. Injustice. In such moments we feel a feeling of some injustice. The paradox is that absolute justice does not exist in nature. I once talked about this in detail in one of my old videos. The video is called, Why Does Justice Not Exist? Thus, in a philosophical sense, there is no single justice for everyone, but for some reason there is a feeling of injustice. We have an unpleasant emotion that arises every time we feel offended for ourselves. And next to the feeling of injustice is envy, the result of comparing yourself with other people. So, friends, all psychologists unanimously claim and recommend, do not compare yourself with other people. In any case, try not to compare. For example, if you do not want to be toxic parents, then do not compare your children with other children. A useful life hack is to try to mentally replace the subject of comparison. Since our psyche is designed in such a way that it cannot do without comparison, it is better to replace comparing yourself with others with comparing yourself with yourself, but at a different point in time, in the past. Look, son, you didn't know how to ride a bike before, but now you've grown up and it's time for you to learn. Don't say, son, your peer Johnny already knows how, but you still haven't learned. You can try to compare, but compare yourself with yourself, only of a different generation. Yes, I haven't saved up for a new Tesla yet, like my neighbor, but I'm still quite young, I haven't worked that long, and I still have everything ahead of me. As if to change the object of comparison. In order not to experience excruciating suffering from comparing yourself with very successful people, it helps to try to change the object of comparison. Psychologically it becomes easier. You will become a little happier if you compare yourself not with those who are better than you, who are obviously richer than you, but quite the opposite. Interesting fact, if you have a place to live, you eat wholesome food and drink clean water, you have a mobile phone, access to the internet and you, for example, graduated from college or university, then, according to statistics, you are already in a tiny privileged group, which includes only 7% of people on planet Earth. The entire population of the Earth is about 8 billion people. If we take these people as 100%, then 48% of people in the world live on an amount of less than $2 a day. 87% of people have access to clean drinking water, and 13% either do not have clean drinking water or have access to a polluted water source. 75% have mobile phones, 25% do not have them, 48% have access to the internet, and 52% do not. 7% were lucky enough to get a higher education, and 93% did not study at either university or college. According to statistics, 83% of the population of planet Earth can read, and 17% of people are completely illiterate. 26% of people die in childhood, that is, they live on average less than 14 years. The first is the one that, unfortunately, most people choose, to lament and complain that the world is unfair, everyone around is to blame, but not me. And the second scenario is to try to change this world around you, to make it better, to make yourself better, to go to school, to try, to finally find your true calling. Having found the business that you like, you get undeniable advantages over those who do not like this type of activity and they do it under duress. Finding your calling is very important. Learning from successful people is much more productive than simply envying and criticizing them. Constant whining and complaining will not make you better. If you think that someone achieved their success by chance, unfairly, then you also have a chance to repeat this success. Only those who make attempts, even if not always successful, have a chance to hit the mark one day, to find that very thing that will allow them to succeed. Archimedes once said, "Give me a fulcrum, and I will move the whole earth. I will turn the world upside down." This means that any, even the most difficult task, any work, is feasible and real, if you really want it and find an approach, find that very fulcrum. Remember that any money has its downside, namely, the costs that are required. We often see successful people, their wealth, but we do not notice the difficulties, the hardships that these people had. We do not see the hardships and sacrifices that, for example, businessmen and rich people often have to make. Of course, we will not envy, for example, a prostitute or a gigolo, that they earn their money quickly and easily. These are people with low social responsibility, and it is impossible to imagine what psychological trauma they will receive, what humiliations they will consciously go to in order to earn money. Deals with conscience are always a bad way, and money earned by honest work, even if there is much less of it, but it will ultimately be more valuable and bring more benefit. Secondly, you cannot always see the risk that a person took to get rich. Where you can earn a lot of money, there is always great competition, and those people whom you may envy today, once had to take risks, including risks to life and health. For example, to become a successful and rich athlete or businessman, you need to put a lot on the line, work long and hard, take risks, sacrifice a stable life, sometimes even sacrifice your family, personal life, going through competitive selection. The same is in business. Only the most successful cases are visible, but according to statistics, most businessmen go bankrupt. Because of the survivorship bias, we see only a part of the iceberg, the external component of success. We see those who succeeded, but not those who failed and were left without money, lost everything. You know, sometimes it's even funny to listen to the reasoning of some friend who confidently tells, "But I could have made millions, because I knew 10 to 15 years ago that, for example, the Bitcoin rate would grow so much. I knew that the prospects were in investing in cryptocurrencies." I always want to object to such statements. Perhaps you knew, but in order to implement this knowledge, you had to take a risk. You had to make a bet. What's the use of simple theoretical knowledge without a bet? You should have made a bet at the right time, not be afraid to take a risk in order to win or, on the contrary, lose. Therefore, it is always useful to ask again when someone today discusses some of their ideas or expresses an opinion on some events. It does not matter in what area and on what topic, even in politics or economics. It is worth asking, and how much of your hard-earned money are you now ready to bet on this expressed opinion, on your beliefs and on predictions of certain events? And when it comes to a real bet, a real risk, confidence in judgments immediately disappears somewhere. If I knew all the cards in advance, I would be rich. Therefore, it is not enough to know, you also need to have the courage to place a bet. There is a wise judgment that an idea costs only $1. We have many ideas, and every new day brings us more and more new ideas. But the implementation of this very idea, especially successful implementation, this is already very, very expensive. Risk is something that we do not always calculate and do not realize when we see a successful businessman or entrepreneur. Perhaps this person, unknown to us, risks his health and life every day, and you see only the external side of his wealth. Perhaps he has a stomach ulcer or diabetes, any chronic disease, earned from regular, chronic stress, and we envy, noticing only the external attributes of wealth. And the last thing I would like to mention in the context of envy is precisely that for some reason we often perceive only the material side of wealth and do not value at all, we belittle the importance of the non-material side. Wealth is not only money. There are things besides money that are much more important. This is the availability of free time that we can devote to our loved ones, relatives, free time to contemplate the beautiful world. The famous Spanish tennis player Rafael Nadal once said in an interview with journalists, "From the point of view of managing my wealth, taxes, and money, it would be better for me to leave altogether and play for a country with lower taxes. But I feel happy in Spain, next to my family and loved ones. In another country I would have twice as much money, but I would be only half happy. And happiness, as we know, cannot be bought for money. Approximately the same logic applies to emigration. When, for example, I am constantly asked why I don't leave my poorer country to earn more, because education and competencies allow you to do this. My answer will be approximately the same as Rafael Nadal's. Because I love my country. Because only here I am truly happy. I value the opportunity to be useful to my people and in my homeland. The opportunity to live in your socio-cultural environment, to communicate in your native language with your loved ones, these values are not sold for any money. And you must always remember the intangible components of wealth, intangible part of capital. Often in pursuit of big money, leaving their homeland, people forget about it for a while or at least do not take it into account when making a decision. So, comparing yourself with more successful people, on the one hand, leads to progress, self-improvement, but, on the other hand, it steals your happiness. For those who like to travel, I recommend visiting not only some prosperous countries, but also those where people live on average much worse than in your home country. This will allow you to take a sober look and objectively compare your life with that of people in these countries. Sometimes it is useful to watch that travel blogger who came to some India or a backward African country to realize that not everything is so bad. To look at our everyday life from a different angle. It is useful to try to transform your envy into curiosity. How did this person manage to achieve such success? And what did he do for this? What measures did he take? It is worth focusing on your own life, trying to achieve happiness. The feeling of black envy is usually expressed in those people who are unhappy themselves, who experience discomfort in their lives and suffering about the success of another person. Envy is an organic, one might even say natural state. But people focused on their own lives usually do not pay attention to the fact that someone has earned an extra million or achieved success in some area. Why pay attention to other people if you yourself are successful? If you yourself live a happy life? These are my thoughts, friends. Subscribe to this channel. Thank you for your attention and see you soon.